is publicly pressuring Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute his political enemies. He's calling for charges against Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, former FBI Director James Comey, and New York Attorney General Letitia James. ABC's White House correspondent Karen Travers and Washington Bureau Managing Editor Catherine Falders have more on this. Hi to you both. So, Karen, if the president wants to talk to Pam Bondi, he can just call her. So why do this in a social media post?
Yeah, I mean, it was so significant that the president put this out there in that public social media post for everybody to see, clearly putting pressure in a public forum on the Attorney General to do his bidding when it comes to these prosecutions and investigations of his perceived political enemies. The president writing, "We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility." Our colleague Selena Wang asked him about this criticism of the Attorney General, and he said, "We have to act fast. If they're not guilty, that's fine." But he said if they are, they should be judged. Now, Diane, Democrats are pushing back very strongly, saying that this is now a dangerous period. Even some Republicans are raising concerns that this was something that they were troubled by when the Biden administration did this to the former president at the time and his allies, and they don't want to see this done now by the Trump administration.
And Catherine, the president's also touting his appointee for the top federal prosecutor for the Virginia office, Lindsay Halligan. What's her potential role in all of this, especially related to Letitia James?
Well, as Karen just noted, Trump said that he wants somebody in there who can act fast, even though, of course, these things were already investigated. His idea of acting fast is to put somebody in charge of this office that has already investigated these things and come to the conclusion that they don't need to be charged. But he wants to put somebody in charge of this office who he believes will actually prosecute, for example, Tish James or James Comey. There's a lot of confusion in this prosecutor's office right now in the Eastern District of Virginia. They really don't know. I don't believe Lindsay Halligan is over in the building. She has little prosecutorial experience. She's his former defense attorney, at least for a bit of time, during the classified documents case down in Florida. She prosecuted insurance fraud claims down in Florida, so really has no experience in this arena. So it's unclear exactly how she's going to move forward on this, but it is something that I'm told behind the scenes that the highest levels of the Justice Department were against. They were against firing the previous U.S. attorney. So they're really in uncharted territory here about how exactly Lindsay Halligan plans to go about something and charge a crime when it's already been determined that there isn't enough evidence to charge a crime.
And Catherine, what's the latest on the Justice Department closing an investigation into allegations border czar Tom Homan took $50,000 in an FBI sting operation?
Yeah, so this has to do with an investigation that started under the previous administration. Homan was not the target of that investigation at the time. It was this broader probe that appears to have led to Homan, but the reality is here there are still a lot of questions about this. How did Homan become involved? He took this alleged $50,000 of cash last year before Trump was president during this FBI sting operation. Where is that cash? What exactly are the results of this investigation and why was it closed? The White House says it was investigated and it was closed, but there's lots of questions for the White House, including whether or not they will make the results of that investigation, Diane, public.
Karen, we're also learning new details about a deal to save TikTok. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, the White House is calling this a framework deal, Diane, and they say that the president is expected to sign an executive order later this week that would extend that current pause right now in order for this deal to get finalized. The deal is going to then set up where there would be this new joint venture with majority American investors, owners, and a board of directors. That's going to be that transfer of ownership from ByteDance to American ownership. The big sticking point, we're told by White House officials, has been the algorithm. That's what makes TikTok so appealing. That's what makes it so addictive. That will now be overseen by Oracle. That, we're told, had been a very important negotiating point of this with China that has to be approved by Beijing. We're told that has been worked out, but still, the president, by signing this executive order, is still extending this pause period because, Diane, it's still a framework, according to the White House. There's still a lot of details that have to be worked out and still announced publicly.
All right, Karen Travers, Catherine Falders, thank you both. And 4 key U.S. allies are now formally recognizing a Palestinian state. The UK, Australia, Canada, and Portugal say the announcement is meant to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. But Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says the move rewards terrorism and vows, quote, there will be no Palestinian state. Foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burridge is in Tel Aviv with more on that. Tom, what's the latest here?
Yeah, I think we're hearing from the Israeli government now, Diane, pushing back very hard against this idea, but also signaling that their response will only come clear in the coming days. I mean, what we're expecting is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to be at the UN in New York at the end of the week, and then to see President Trump at the White House at the beginning of the following week, and he'll only deliver his response, he says, when he comes back here to Israel. Effectively, what we understand is that the Israeli government is going to coordinate with the Trump administration and effectively ask for their blessing for whatever that response will be. Now, look, I spoke to one of the advisors close to Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier. He said all options are on the table in terms of that response. No concrete specifics from that official, but a lot of reporting is questioning whether or not Israel might go for a kind of partial annexation of parts of the West Bank. That would be hugely controversial. What these countries are saying is that they want this to be part of a broader package. This is a symbolic move. It doesn't change anything on the ground. Palestinians broadly welcome it, but I think it doesn't make a massive tangible difference to their everyday lives, either in Gaza where the war continues or in the West Bank where there is a lot of tension and also violence has been, since October the 7th, a real rise in violence. So what these countries, and we're expecting France in the coming hours to also recognise a Palestinian state along with another few European countries, what they are calling for is this to be part of a package to put pressure on Israel to end the war in Gaza. They want the release of all of the hostages. They're demanding that Hamas has no role to play in Gaza after the war, and they're working with Arab states like the Saudis, like Egypt, like the Qataris, to try and put pressure on Israel to come up with what they think would be a better solution for this area. But for the Israeli government, they're pushing back incredibly hard. They say the idea of a Palestinian state isn't going to happen, and they believe after the October 7th terror attack, it would be a reward for Hamas, and it would present a security risk for Israel.
Tom Sufi Burridge for us in Tel Aviv. Tom, thank you. Thousands of people in the Philippines. Are evacuating their homes amid a massive storm. Forecasters are calling Super Typhoon Ragasa the strongest storm on Earth so far this year. It's packing the wind strength of a Category 5 hurricane and making its way toward Hong Kong. Now Hong Kong's airports expected to suspend all passenger flights. ABC's Brit Clinton is in Hong Kong with those details. Brit, what's it like there right now?
Hi, Diane. Well, it is the calm before the storm, but Hong Kong is very much preparing to hunker down ahead of severe Typhoon Ragasa, which is edging closer to the city, and we'll start feeling the impacts tomorrow, but there has been a rush to stock up on groceries here. The government telling everyone to make sure they have their food and supplies at home. The airport here, as you mentioned, suspending flights in and out for 36 hours. That means at least 700 flights will be impacted, will be cancelled. 4,000 officers are on standby here. That includes police, emergency services. Schools closed for at least 2 days. And we have seen a number of typhoons this year in and around Hong Kong, but this would be the fourth major tropical storm we've had here in 2025. This is the first super typhoon in 2 years. It could be the strongest storm since 2018. That was the worst tropical storm we'd seen in decades. It injured more than 200 people. It caused almost $600 million in damage, and it triggered serious storm surges up to 11 feet high, which authorities are warning could happen again with this storm, Diane.
All right, Brit Clinton for us in Hong Kong. Brit, thank you. Stay safe. And ABC meteorologist Ken Jarecki is here with more on that storm. So, Ken, what's the latest on this super typhoon's track?
Yeah, so you can see exactly where this has been going here just by looking at the satellite, and you can even see that it's getting a little bit weaker. So it has weakened from that kind of Category 5 strength. Now it's down to what we would consider Category 4 in the Saffir-Simpson scale. Of course, the super typhoon, though, 150 miles per hour there, as you can see. And on the track for this, you can see it's mostly staying south of Hong Kong. But again, remember that this cone means that the center of circulation can be anywhere within the cone. So that means that if that center is a little closer to Hong Kong, that means they are certainly going to get more of those more serious impacts. And that's Wednesday morning. Could still have about Category 3 or Category 2 strength there with 110 miles per hour. Then making its way over to Vietnam as we head closer to Thursday night. And then over even Thailand, seeing some of the remnants of that storm as well, Diane.
All right, Ken Jarecki, thank you. Coming up, Karen Reed in court. What's at stake in this civil trial after being acquitted in the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend? Also ahead, the new legal battle for the suspect in the United Healthcare CEO murder. Why his attorneys say his perp walk should take the death penalty off the table.
Drop whatever you're doing right now. The Wendy's $8 JBC meal deal is here. That's 2 junior bacon cheeseburgers, medium fries, and a medium drink. So you better be on your way. Bacon waits for no one. The #1 deal for the #1 bacon cheeseburger, gotta be Wendy's.
Easily combine old 401ks into one IRA. PensionBee, a better way to IRA.
ABC's chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky has the latest.
Accused killer Luigi Mangione is urging a judge to dismiss federal charges that could get him the death penalty if he's convicted in the fatal shooting of United Healthcare chief executive Brian Thompson. His attorneys compared Mancione's dramatic return to New York, clambering out of a helicopter in shackles and surrounded by heavily armed officers, to a scene out of a Marvel movie that they said amounted to unfair, unconstitutional prejudice. The defense also pointing to public statements by Attorney General Pam Bondi.
If there was ever a death case, this is one. This guy is charged with hunting down a CEO, a father of two, a married man, hunting him down and executing him.
Defense attorneys said Bondi's statements were gratuitous and designed to make Mangione seem dangerous to the country and menacing to the Attorney General.
In this case, it is a little unusual because before the grand jury indicated that it would seek the death penalty, the Attorney General did make statements about this case. That is not typical, and that is why the defense counsel is seeking to have this indictment thrown out, or in the alternative, they're seeking to have the death penalty removed from the indictment.
Federal prosecutors have not responded, but they've previously said Mangione deserves a death sentence because he tried to normalize the use of violence to make a point. Mangione convinced a state judge last week to throw out terrorism charges, though that same judge noted there's evidence Mangione murdered Thompson in a premeditated and calculated execution. Mangione has pleaded not guilty. He's due back in both state and federal courtrooms in December, and that, Diane, is when judges in both cases are expected to set dates to put Mangione on trial. Diane.
Aaron Katursky, thank you. And Karen Reed is due back in court this morning trying to dismiss a part of the civil lawsuit against her. Reed was acquitted of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, in June, but the O'Keefe family is still suing her for wrongful death. Now her attorney's promising a forceful defense, saying nothing and no one is off the table. Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman has the latest.
Karen Reed and her attorneys will be back in a Massachusetts courtroom just 3 months after a jury acquitted her of murder and manslaughter in the death of her former boyfriend, Boston cop John O'Keefe. The O'Keefe family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Reed and 2 bars in Canton, Massachusetts. The family is seeking at least $50,000 in damages for pain and suffering and wrongful death. When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4.
This past June, Reed was convicted of operating a vehicle under the influence and sentenced to a year of probation. Prosecutors had accused Reed of backing her SUV into O'Keefe and then driving away, leaving him to die in the snow after a night of heavy drinking. Reed's lawyers maintained she never hit O'Keefe and that she was framed in a law enforcement cover-up. A previous trial in 2024 ended in a mistrial. Alan Jackson, Reed's lawyer during the criminal trial, is now spearheading her defense in the civil trial. He sat down with Billy Bush to talk about what this week could bring. You might want to tune in.
Really?
Sure.
Are you gonna go? Are you gonna take some? Are you gonna be forceful? Take some shots?
Anything we do on behalf of Karen is forceful. We're not going to sit back and just have the case come to us. I said this before, nothing's off the table, no one's off the table. But John O'Keefe's friend, Brendan Kane, telling me the family has been hoping for one thing.
What I really want is just justice for the family and those that love Johnny. Johnny's not coming back. So, we're you know, I think that folks have kind of grieved in different ways, but you can't have that final piece, that final rest until this chapter of the story is concluded.
Diane, that hearing is set for later today. Now, both bars have denied the allegations. And while the O'Keefe family has been relentlessly pursuing justice for over 3 years, some of the family and friends tell me they are concerned that in this civil trial, they will again be the target of the kind of hatred and vitriol they endured at the hands of some of Karen Reed's supporters during the murder trials. Diane.
Matt Gutman, thank you. Coming up, the Trump administration is reportedly planning to announce a link between autism and use of Tylenol during pregnancy. Dr. Sutton's here with more on that in the checkup and why some experts are pushing back.
Brilliant. We don't use that word lightly. We reserve it for the best and the brightest. The forward thinkers. The innovators. We believe brilliance propels cities forward. So we design spaces that attract bright minds. We build communities that light you up. And ignite new passions. We've imagined a new kind of city. Beaming with possibility. Where you can really shine.
Pension offers the opportunity to combine your old 401ks and your IRAs all in one place.
All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. First, the Trump administration is reportedly planning to announce a link between autism risk and a popular pain medication. While speaking at Charlie Cook's memorial last night, the president teased a big announcement today saying, "I think we found an answer to autism." Now the Washington Post reports the administration will announce a link between autism and the use of Tylenol in pregnancy, as the maker of Tylenol is pushing back, along with some experts. ABC's Allison Cossack has the latest.
President Trump today is expected to announce his administration has, quote, found an answer to autism. He spoke about the disorder overnight while returning to the White House.
Now it's 1 in 12, actually always 1 in 12 and 1 in 10. I mean, can you imagine? So there's obviously something artificial that's really wrong. And I think we know what that is.
The Washington Post reports the administration is planning to link autism to the use of Tylenol in pregnancy and is expected to claim that the FDA-approved cancer drug Leucovorin is a possible treatment for autism. Both claims raising concern among many doctors.
fear-mongering when it is based on very limited evidence.
No studies have proven that use of Tylenol, known as acetaminophen, by pregnant women is a cause for autism. Some limited evidence suggests it's associated with higher rates of neurological issues, but those studies have been mixed. The maker of Tylenol saying, "We believe independent, sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise." Scientists who've been studying autism for decades warn the administration's timeline examining this has been too short to come up with a single cause.
I'm very concerned that women who experience fevers will elect not to treat that fever because we know that fever is associated with poor child outcomes.
Doctors and autism researchers point to figures showing rates of Tylenol use during pregnancy have declined in recent years, even as rates of autism have increased. As for the possible use of leucovorin as an autism treatment, many doctors again voicing skepticism.
We need to do large-scale randomized trials before we can say with any certainty that this is a treatment that autistic children should receive.
Thanks to Allison Cossack for that report, and ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton here with more on that in today's checkup. So, Dr. Sutton, what are you watching for in this announcement later today?
Some crucial important statements. I'm hoping that they balance the emerging data while acknowledging the existing science, and important that we communicate these things while not creating misinformation and fueling stigma. A lot of this is information that we've already known, so the question is, how is this going to be utilized to help educate the public?
Tylenol is one of the most widely used medications around the world. So what's the current guidance on taking it while pregnant?